Welcome back, everyone, to the Way podcast, where we learn in English poco a poco or podcast by podcast. Today, we are saying goodbye to the summer.
Bienvenido al podcast de The Way. Si quieres aprender inglés y hablar con confianza, estás en el sitio correcto. Hemos ayudado a miles de personas como tú a mejorar su inglés y alcanzar sus objetivos. Visita nuestra web theway.es para conocer más sobre nuestros cursos online desde A2 hasta C1 y descubre cómo podemos ayudarte a avanzar en tu aprendizaje. Además, si necesitas una certificación oficial, también ofrecemos la opción de realizar el examen Language Pair cómodamente desde casa.
So, there are a couple of different things that I want to look at today. And the first one is how to talk about your summer. So, usually people will say to you, "Oh, how was your summer?" And usually people just say, "Oh, it was fine," or "it was good," or "okay," right? But it's sometimes nice to add a little bit extra, right? So, for example, I had a relaxing summer. Maybe if there was a little bit of drama, you could say, I had a eventful. Eventful meaning a lot of events, but more about like the dramatic side of things. So, oh no, I had a relaxing summer, or I had an eventful summer. I had a incredible summer, right? And then people say, oh, what did you do? Oh, I spent some quality time with friends and family, or I spent quality time with my loved ones. I went on a trip, or I went on a short trip to wherever, or I was able to take a few days off, because some people work in the summer, some people don't. But you could say to take days off, meaning una baja, right? You could take a few days off, and I went to Lisbon, for example. Now, you could also use the phrasal verb catch up on, ponerse al día. And you could say, oh, I caught up on some TV series. I caught up on some books that I wanted to read in the summer, something like this. And sometimes you could say, I had a staycation. Now, we talk about a staycation like vacation, but stay, como quedar. So a staycation is when you stay at home, you don't travel anywhere. You could have like a day trip, maybe go to the beach or go to the mountains, but I'm talking about like, you went on holiday to a different city, okay? So, for example, this past summer, I had a staycation, and actually we have a bit of a joke. Before the summer starts, if someone says to you, what are your plans for the summer? You could say, oh, I'm just going to have a staycation. We actually have a joke, and the joke is like this. Someone will say, what are your plans for the summer? Or what are you going to do in the summer? And sometimes we say, oh, I'm going to Romania. Romania, like the city, Romania. But Romania also sounds like quedar, like remain here como aquí. So stay here. Romania, remain here. You get it? So that's quite a bit of an old joke. So I personally had a staycation, and you could also say that you stayed local, right? Which is also a nice way to say that, a day trip here, beach there, but you didn't go anywhere far or to a different country. The next section is just how to talk about the summer, right? So you can just ask the question, how was your summer, right? Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with saying that. But often we'll say, for example, what did you get up to, right? What to get up to, we say it a lot as in what did you do, right? I personally use it a lot. So at the weekend or in the summer or over Christmas or whatever, I was just like, okay, what did you get up to? As in, what did you do? But it's a more native way of chatting, okay? So did you get up to anything interesting? Did you get up to anything fun? What did you get up to? You can also ask someone how. How did you spend the summer? And then you could say, I spent the summer, I don't know, I spent the summer chilling at home, or I spent the summer going to the beach, or I spent the summer traveling. Okay, so the question how. And a really nice question that I like to do, but only because I'm quite reflective and I like to do journaling, is asking a question like, what was the highlight, the best thing, the mejor cosa, the yeah, there's no other word. I don't know how highlight is subrayador, right? But I don't know how else to explain it. So if you guys know what is a nice way in Spanish to explain a highlight, the best thing, right? Please let me know in social media and teach me a little as well. But yes, we use the question quite a lot. What was the highlight of your summer? What was the highlight of the year? Okay. And that's the same, like, oh my God. Well, I can answer you personally. Oh my God. The highlight of my summer was going to Valencia. I went on a day trip and I went to the Oceanographic, the aquarium, right? One of the best that exists in Europe. And it was beautiful. And the highlight of that trip specifically was seeing the beluga whales. Oh, it was fantastic. I highly recommend it. If you are in Spain and you haven't been, put it on your bucket list, the list of things that you want to do in your life. It was definitely worth it. Right. Let's go into the next section, which is talking about vocabulary about going back to work or vocabulary about going back to school. We have some idioms or some expressions that you can use. The first one being back to the grind. That's a really good idiom that we used to say, right, let's get back to work, back to the not relaxing and enjoying, but back to the hard work and doing the things that you are supposed to be doing, right? So like, I had 2 weeks off meaning time off, the baja, time off is your baja. So I had 2 weeks off and I went to Lisboa, right? Lisbon. And now I have to get back into the grind, right? We also use it as an expression just like this, like, oh, that's it, back to the grind. We use it a lot. Another expression is to say, it's good to be back, or it's strange to be back, right? So to be back as in, ha vuelto, right? It's like saying I'm back, but I have returned. But we don't really say I'm back. I mean, you can in terms of the summer. Like if you come back into the office and everyone's in the office and you go, hey, I'm back after a holiday or something like that. But usually it would be like you haven't been at work for August, the whole month of August, and you come back and you feel a little bit weird and you're like, strange to be back. Or, yes, I've got the ganas. It's so good to be back. Another one that we use to talk about getting into routine is to get into the swing of things. Now, swing, I guess you could say, is like columpiar, balancear. It's just to move back and forth, right? So to get back into the swing of things means to get back into the routine. Usually, as a teacher, I get back into the swing of things in September, back into routine, see how things go, what I need to change, and little bit by little bit, poco a poco, you get back into the grind, right? And the final one is just something that we have spoken about before, a fresh start. Some people say that September feels more like January than January because of the academic new year starting. So you could say that September feels like a fresh start. And for me, it certainly does. We have September, October, November, and December. We've got 4 months until we have a reset in 2026. So it definitely feels like a mini reset. And finally, just to talk about the summer, is to see where you stand. The expression where you stand is to talk about how strongly you agree or disagree. So you can fully agree or strongly agree. You can agree in part. You could just agree 50-50, like I agree more or less. And then the same, I disagree or I disagree in part or I strongly disagree. So I have some statements here for you that you can agree or disagree with. And then I'll give my opinion just so that you can see how to explain yourself. Okay. All right. Number 1, the main reason I go on holiday is to relax. The main reason I go on holiday is to relax. I agree with this in part because, yes, fully, everyone needs a holiday in order to recuperate, relax, and recharge. But there's another element that I personally enjoy, and that's to go to new places, to travel to new places and learn and experience something different than what I would normally experience in my day-to-day life. Let's look at another one. As a tourist, it's very difficult to have an authentic experience of a place. As a tourist, it's very difficult to have an authentic experience of a place. You know, I actually think I fully agree with this. I strongly agree. There's no way that a tourist in 5 days or in 2 days or even in 2 weeks can experience what it's like living in a place that's culturally different, or, for example, the politics of an area, the crime or the safety of an area. So, every city center has places that are specifically for tourists, but locals don't just stay in the city center. There's a whole lifestyle that we don't get to see, which is neither good or bad. It's just the truth. Let's look at the next one. It's important for me to travel to a place with good weather on holiday. It's important for me to travel to a place with good weather on holiday. I'm in two minds. That's a nice expression to say, like 50-50. I'm in two minds. It would come down to the place that you want to travel. People don't go to England because they want sunny weather. People come to Spain, the coast of Spain for sunny weather, 100%. That makes sense. If you come to the beach and it's raining, nobody's going to enjoy that. But you go to Scotland or England where you know that it's going to be, cozy, rainy, a little bit cold. People don't go to, for example, Norway for the sun. They're going to Norway for the snow. And actually don't know, you can check me on this, the Aurora Borealis. Can you see that from Norway? I think you can. I need to double check. But you know what I mean? Like, you go to different places to experience different things, and weather, good weather, is subjective. Let's do two more. I prefer a self-catered apartment to a hotel. I prefer a self-catered apartment to a hotel. Now, self-cater means to help yourself, as in Airbnb, okay? And for me personally, I fully disagree. I do not like the Airbnb vibe, especially now that it's just as expensive as going to a hotel. I want to go on holiday and I want to have the luxuries. I want to have my room cleaned every day. I want the buffet in the morning. I want the clean, fresh towels. That's the experience that I personally want on holiday. So for me, Airbnb is just not the vibe. However, let me just put this into perspective, because I actually had a debate with my students about this. Some students said, Aurelia, don't you think it depends on how many people are going on holiday? It's just me and my husband. So I have to consider that as an aspect of us choosing a hotel. People that want to go on holiday as a big family, or, for example, have lots of kids, maybe a monetary factor is something that people usually consider. Okay, let's do one more. I'm not a big fan of the beach. Sand gets everywhere. And I agree with this in part, right? I love the beach in general, and I think that Spain has some of the most beautiful beaches that I've ever been to. However, I do not like the sand. It gets everywhere. It's in your bikini, in your costume. It gets in your bag. It gets everywhere. So we prefer to find a beach that has pebbles. A pebble is the name of a little rock, like mini piedras, right? Pebble. And there are lots of pebble beaches where you don't have to worry about the sand. But then obviously you have to wear special shoes or make sure you are comfortable to be walking on the pebbles. So I guess it depends on the type of inconvenience you would prefer. Right. So there are some opinions that people talk about when they are going on holiday. Where do you stand? Do you fully agree? Do you agree in part? Are you in two minds, or do you totally disagree? Let me know in our social media. Otherwise, everyone, I'll catch you next week. Bye.
Si disfrutaste de este episodio y quieres llevar tu inglés al siguiente nivel, te invitamos a descubrir nuestros cursos online en theway.es, diseñados para mejorar tu fluidez y confianza en situaciones reales. Hemos ayudado a miles de personas como tú a transformar su aprendizaje. Visita ahora theway.es y realiza nuestro test de nivel interactivo de manera gratuita. Además, si necesitas una certificación oficial, también ofrecemos la opción de realizar el examen de Mid-Third cómodamente desde casa.